pulling your kid out of the Little League. The whole thing's starting to give more than a few of us a bad taste. Indeed, the lawyers have taken over baseball, and yesterday the Reds got more TROs than RBIs. It's crying shame, and it needn't be like this. It's time for less law and a little common sense. And see how easy this whole thing could be. I mean, what's the issue here? It's whether Pete bet on baseball or the Reds. And that's a no-no, and Pete knows it is. And there's a good reason for that, because if gamblers get too involved in the game, there'd be too much incentive to fix the game, and the integrity of baseball would be lost. So the rule's good. No betting on baseball. Well, did Pete bet on baseball? The investigator has put together his report. Pete now wants a chance to show that the report's all wrong. And he wants the case heard before an impartial judge. He doesn't think Giamatti's fair. He thinks he's already made up his mind prior to hearing Pete refute the evidence. Judge Nadel, at least to this point, agrees. Meanwhile, Baseball Commissioner Bart Giamatti says he is fair. He is impartial. He has not yet made up his mind about Pete. This is what the lawyers are arguing about. Well, is Giamatti biased, or can he be fair? Well, how about a little common sense here? Why doesn't Giamatti simply say, look, I'm as honest and fair as the day is long. I have not already determined that Pete is guilty. But since the most important thing here is finding the truth and preserving the integrity of baseball as well as Pete's rights, I'd like to avoid even the appearance of having been biased. I'd like to lift the cloud that will inevitably hover over this case no matter what decision I now reach. So, I'll step aside here, agree not to hear this case, and we'll have baseball appoint somebody else or an agreed-upon panel to hear the evidence, maybe a former federal judge or even a former president. If Bart Giamatti would just say that, he'd be a national hero overnight. He'd have put the game ahead of his pride. Pete would have no excuse for not going ahead with the hearing. Both sides would be heard. The issue would be out of court. The question of Pete's betting finally settled. And once again, we could play ball. It'd be less dollars for the lawyers, but more common sense for the game.